Well, welcome to a very special episode of the Encounter Faith Podcast, everybody. My name is Ross, and I am so grateful to have these conversations each and every week. And today we get to do something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And in this case, I mean that quite literally. The Fairlambs are here, everybody, and I have been talking to these folks over email and apologizing for missing appointments for what feels like years now. It's probably only been a few months, but guys, welcome. So glad we're doing this.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Yes, we're glad it finally is here. We made it happen.
We made it happen.
God made it happen.
Yeah.
Right?
God made it happen. Amen. And we're
going to full disclosure, I think it was on our end a few times. So, right.
Listen,
we're glad to be here.
Yes.
I appreciate you bringing facts and journalism here, but we don't need to do that all the time, Rem. So Rem and Jennifer Fairlamb, you guys have been here for a long time, and I feel like I know you probably better than I actually do. But for folks who are listening to this who don't know you or don't even go to Good Shepherd, can you let us know a little bit about your family and how you guys wound up here at this church?
Okay. Well, we're looking at each other. Who's going to start?
I love that. The listeners couldn't see that, but that was a great moment of like, no, you do it. No, you do it.
Jen will chime in. I think so we've been going to a church in Naperville for years, 20 some years. But always we're driving right past Good Shepherd and said, wow, that place is, man, that parking lot's always full. And, our daughter then started coming here for some Young Life events. And then later a small group, a young adults group. And so she was kind of coming through the doors, right. And was very comfortable here. And I think felt like in the groups that she was part of, she was being fed for sure. Mm. And really along that, she's now an adult and moved away, but she's, when she's home, she's excited to be coming here with us. But in all of that, our son Preston started to come here as also part of Young Life Capernaum. Okay. That was being hosted here.
Sure.
And so he loved coming here. And, I remember, I don't know, 6-8 years ago, running around in the multipurpose room, and he was just loving it, and they were having a blast. And so he felt we know when Preston's comfortable somewhere because, he has autism and not every place feels right to him, but Sure. This place clearly did feel right to him. So we found ourselves coming when we drop him off, pick him up, and staying sometimes, and just it started to feel a little bit more like just a place we knew, that we were comfortable in. And then we got to a place where we were thinking, hey, maybe in our own faith journey, it's time, maybe we're getting called to be somewhere else. And so we were starting to think about that. And this was the logical first place. Let's just go to a service here. And so when doing that, we just felt right away very comfortable, and that this was just a church that was focused on Christ and was focused on community. Amen. And was focused on how to give back to a community and how to serve a community. And it just felt really natural to us. So it, from there, it just kind of progressed.
That's awesome. You stand by that, you guys, that's a fair way to summarize it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly our story. I mean, you have a lot of pre-experience with Young Life, and just deciding that, Amy was really engaging here and growing and learning, and we wanted to support her in that as well. And it was the right time. I think we both felt like, honestly, for Preston's spiritual growth, ours for sure, to continue that. But for Preston's spiritual growth, I think a change was necessary. Sure. So we were, and I don't know if this will come up later, but we and he was welcomed here by the Fusion Ministry in ways that it's so powerful. If you have a loved one with special needs, and it's not easy to bring them into situations, and they don't necessarily fit in any kind of box or program or classroom, and someone like Danielle Schaefer just says, how can we serve Preston? How can we serve your family? Mm. It is just like the angels singing. Honestly.
I love that. I do want to ask a couple of questions about Fusion, because one of the things that stands out to me about your guys' story is, as someone who used to work at Awana, I hear and would hear a lot of times about folks who their family wasn't in church, and then their kids started going to an Awana thing, and the kid winds up leading the whole family into the context of church. And you guys have a variation in that story of you guys were doing fine. It sounds like maybe there was some ways that Preston could have been having some more momentum in his spiritual journey, but overall things were fine. And you made an active decision to pursue something different and found out that God was pulling you into something that was better for your family. I love the fact that you talked about Preston wanting to belong or feeling like he could belong just as he is. One of the things that stands out to me is families like yours and the all abilities community, the disability community, whatever particular label you want to put on it, dear listener, the special needs community, are used to resources being offered and then resources being taken away, plans starting and plans not being able to be sustained. That was 8 years ago, I think is what you just said in your timeline. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm most intrigued by is what does it look like to walk that path as this family? Because if I'm a family listening to that who's like you guys, 8 years is probably not the typical experience, right? Like there's a fact of the community tries to come around you guys when it's convenient for them, and then they pull resources away. And there's been a staying power that you found here at Good Shepherd, and I would just love to hear you guys talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's true. So look, we know every church has sometimes challenges to getting to church. Sure. The joke is like we're barking at each other the whole way in the car, and then we get to church and we put our smiles on and come in.
Absolutely.
For us, we were at a terrific church, but that wanted to serve families like ours. And at different times, it was just what you said. I think there were probably 2 or 3 different times where there was some momentum. That it was mostly the lay staff. It was people in the church, parents kind of coming together with a little bit of support from the church itself, saying, "Yeah, we want to support you in this." But it was, someone moves away. The leader kind of moves away, or some other change happens, and then you go through a period where there's, like you said, it kind of wanes, and then, we're trying to make sure that we can contribute as much as we're able to as well. I mean, because it is on all of us as parents often, but it's rare that we think it's kind of rare that a church steps up and says, in our value system. Mm-hmm. This population of people are every bit as worthy and important and valuable to God. And so they need a place that is for them, that meets their needs. And in meeting Preston's needs, I can't tell you like what that does for Jen and I to be able to know, we go to the second contemporary service on Sundays. Preston looks forward to coming here, which we didn't always have. It's not that every Sunday is his best day, but
it's not
he
like
comes
Fusion's
here
every perfect ministry.
Yeah, but he knows that he's so comfortable here, and what Ian does and the others is just I can't even really tell you how valuable that is for us, because we're in service, focused, feeling the Spirit, right along everyone else, not worried. We know that if we need to be called, they'll let us know, but they very, very, very rarely do that. But it just really enables for us to worship. And we know that Preston, we show up to pick him up, and he's been doing all kinds of cool stuff, right? And he's doing things that are building his spiritual formation, and we've got things that he brings home, little crafts and other things that he brings home that will sit right on this, on our island near where he hangs out the most all week long. Like he's kind of looking at that. And so that's
amazing.
Really, really awesome.
I start there because when we talk about inviting everyone, the thing that I always, and again, for me personally, right, this is in the center of, you and I could talk for 6 hours about this, but inviting everyone has to mean inviting everyone. Otherwise we have to change the language of that statement. And one of the things that has always stood out to me about the uniqueness of this place is the ability for folks to feel like they belong wherever they're at with their church experience, whatever they're at with their priest denomination experience, or wherever they're at as a person and who carries the Imago Dei forward. One of the things that I'm so encouraged by is hearing you talk about Preston's spiritual formation and how that allows for you guys to be able to focus. Because to me, it's this responsibility that I feel like churches like ours need to carry forward, where, of course, this is missional, this is foundational, all things that I just said. And also, a lot of churches who might listen to this go, yeah, I want to do those things. I literally don't have the resources. I literally don't have the people, and I can't see a way forward. There's a separate podcast for them about starting with what you have and building it. But for us, I go, we have those things and we need to continue to do them. Whenever I talk about Fusion, I always talk about it as the most important ministry, because if we lose that focus, we begin to lose a core part of who we are as a church. And one of the things that stands out to me is there's a difference between the kind of values, like you were just saying, Rem, and how people understand the idea of generosity. For families like you guys, people quite literally might go, like, let me just throw some money over there to build a program, but not build it in a sustainable way, not build it in a heart way, to kind of set it aside. And then it can be fine over there. And then eventually the resources run out, or the people run out, or like you said, the love runs out. What I'm curious about is, when you think of this big picture idea of generosity, I'm curious how you begin to unpack it with your experience here at Good Shepherd, because I imagine it has some to do with financial resources, but it's actually it's a fuller picture in your guys' story. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the generosity that we have been shown, again, from walking in that first day and being welcomed and just being valued, both us and Preston, and just wanting to make this a great experience for us. The generosity of the people on staff here, the people who volunteer, the people who come to buddy breaks, the people who were there for Light Up the Night. It just shows us that there's such a spirit here, and that generosity, it just affects people, and it affects us, and it affects Preston, and it just really makes us feel like we have so much to give. I think sometimes when you're parenting a child and a young man with special needs, you just feel, gosh, what do I have to offer? I'm so limited in what I do, and I'm just trying to get through the days. And it turns around, you turn around and I see the women that are younger than me, that were in my shoes, 20 years ago, and I see where they're at, the struggles that they have, and I see God saying to me, and she's saying, you need to, reach back out to them, reach that hand back and show the generosity of what you've received and give it out to them, because that is what it's all about, right? Is to receive it and then to give it out. And
absolutely, that
has been a really sweet thing that God has done in this experience for us, or for me specifically here as well, is to help me take the generosity that I've received and that Preston's received, our family's received, and to give that back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I really like the way you put it, because yes, we've talked a lot about Preston here in the first 20 minutes here, but it is about your entire family. It is about how you guys have not only benefited in the loosest sense of, like, I'm trying to make that sound like as least transactional as possible, but you've experienced it you've received it, and you've also participated in it. And it becomes, we like to say around here, generosity is something that God wants for us, not from us. And your story is a way that you can see that lived out, because too often we approach anything around church with this sort of, I have to do it myself, or I have to plan it perfectly. This might just be me. I'll cut out this section later and send it to my therapist, because this might just be me projecting here. But what I feel like is extensively true, and you see it in your story, is the ways in which, by participating in the life of this place, leaning into the life of this place, you've seen how God has blessed you guys with a community of support. You've seen how God has blessed your family. You've seen how God has continued to surround you guys over this long haul. One of the things I'm curious about is, you were just describing this, Jen, about connecting with folks who have been in similar experiences. When someone comes into Good Shepherd for the first time, whether they're a family like yours or not, I'm curious what you hope they feel. Because one of the things that stood out for you guys is you had someone see you and welcome you. But I'm always curious about how I don't want to set the expectation that, for you guys it was Danielle, but for the next family, Autumn has to see them every single time. What do you guys hope folks feel when they walk into the doors here for the first time?
Well, I'll just share. I think, look, the generosity is such a, I think of usually if people think money, I think first, maybe then time.
Sure.
I think generosity is also is just a heart of like seeing people, right? Just seeing them and then not seeing them and then looking away, but seeing them and moving to them and towards them. And so, I've certainly felt that here, not just even related to Preston, like in general, people make eye contact and are interested and are looking to connect. And so I would hope anybody who comes in, whether they're a family like ours or any family really, is just that they don't just, see a church that is, feels happy and all that. Like they should feel welcomed, right? And somebody just saying, "Hi, I'm Rem.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Yep.
Is it your first time here? I haven't seen you," or just anything, right? Like that is so valuable, especially when you're coming in here a little maybe uncertain and you're not, will we be received or not? So that is that's a first step.
Yeah.
And then to be brought in to, just as Jen said, to be asked, hey, what would make a great experience for Preston? Because, honestly, there wasn't an adult program up here. There was more of a children's program when we first started.
Oh, sure.
He was easily the oldest person in the room. And they, again, with just over some time, it's like, hey, we think we could create a different situation for Preston. And they did. And Danielle did that, and Autumn has continued that. And now there's a whole group of young adults who have their own place to hang out on Sundays, which is super cool. But my thought is just generosity is that seeing people, bringing them in, having a heart, not the way God sees us, and to think of this place as our home. It's like if someone walked in our home, would we greet them? Welcome, you're here. Yeah, of course we would, right? So I think that same feeling should just extend. We're a family and we're looking to grow the family.
Yeah. I think so too, that love and acceptance. And to me, it's just, like Jesus does, he meets you where you are, right? People come in this door and you never know where they're at on any given day, right? And people are going through so much in this world, and there's so much going on, and just to have someone come and meet them where they are, come as you are, it may look like not what we're used to here, a little bit different than, what you think you should feel like coming in the church doors, but that's not true. That's, you come as you are, and there is a place for you, and we'll help you connect and find that place and get plugged in and start you on your journey.
Yeah.
So.
There's two last things I want to ask about. One of the things that I find really encouraging about talking to you guys is you guys have been around here for a while and you're continuing to lean in. I've said before, I think one of the ways where the enemy uses the faithfulness of this place sort of against us is he makes things feel really comfortable. Where you walk in, I came from a church plant background prior to being here at Good Shepherd. You walk in, there's already chairs set out. The building already exists. The doors are already unlocked, right? And each and every week. And it becomes easy for folks to, one, not see the amount of work that goes into making those things happen, but two, to just sort of take it for granted. And one of the things that stands out to me about you guys is because you have engaged in the relationships with people, you've welcomed them in as if it's their home. Not only are you not taking it for granted, but you're also allowing this isn't about Good Shepherd growth, but it's like you're also making it easier for the kingdom to grow. Because the kind of person who's walking into a church right now for the very first time is walking in with some level of church hurt. They're walking in with some level of expectation that the first person who they walk by who doesn't say hello to them, they are just like the other 10,000 Christians who have wronged them in the past. And I love that simple metaphor of treating this like our house because, one, it does seem to be fairly biblically accurate. folks who know the podcast, that's why I bring on pastors all the time, is because then I can ask them those kinds of questions. But more importantly, it's a responsibility of those who have been around here for any length of time or been walking with Jesus for any length of time to continue that mission forward. The thing that I actually wanted to ask about, though, I'm going to step off my soapbox here for a second, is one of the things you guys have experienced is you've seen folks, I think you use the phrase lean in rather than lean away from. And there's a lot of folks who want to help, who want to do things, who feel like they may have gifts in serving. And I'm talking about in all areas of life, but either feel like they're not equipped to engage in whatever the thing is they feel like God's put in their heart, or that it's too big, too scary, too complicated, whatever. We all, as soon as we get something like that, we all immediately start putting up the reasons why that'll never work. That is a very, you talk to anybody who does the kind of work that Autumn does, that is a very challenging world, especially for folks who are trying to serve families of all abilities, because there's a perception that doesn't match the reality. There's a perception that I'm supposed to know all of the things and all of the words and all of the behaviors and all of the treatments and all of the everything all the strategies. That was the word I was looking for. And what you're describing, Rem, earlier is, no, actually, you just need to be a friend. You just need to be able to look them in the eye. You just need to be patient. What have you guys seen in terms of what it has been to serve here or be served here? Because my assumption is there are folks who are certainly all kinds of qualified. And there's also folks who you've seen serving, or maybe you guys have done this yourselves, who you'd be like, man, I did not expect that person to succeed in that area the way that they did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I just, first of all, I love that we do make it look easy. Like you said, I mean, it's easy to come be a consumer here and then just, have your opinion like we do on everything else that we consume. Right. But I think even what someone might consider to be a smallest service, I helped one time in one place. Hey, there's no telling what God can do with that, right? I mean, that might have been a really important person or situation or whatever that you really helped in, right? So, sure. and I think if we both feel when we serve in any kind of a way, it's we always get more out of it than we give, right? We always walk away feeling that was great. I mean, I can never think of a time that I've served and thought, oh, I'm not doing that again. Like I always feel the other way, which is I need to do this more often, right? I need to find other ways to plug in and before you know it, right? Like you're now elbow to elbow with other people maybe who are serving. And now you realize I've got some people I didn't know before who are part of this family. And there's a little more connectedness the next time we see each other. And so God uses it for so many different benefits, right? And at the end of the day, we're serving people who, in most cases, need something, right? Yeah. That service really means something to them. And it, like I said, it could be anything, even just like the cleaning up the weeds around the house in the spring time when that's a thing. And, take down and for the big Easter service or all of the work that gets done that goes into that, I certainly can be better at it. Don't get me wrong. But I do always feel like it just feels great to be hands and feet to anybody in any way, even on the stuff that's not seen, that's behind the scenes. It just matters because it takes a lot to make a church like ours run.
For sure. And I love that you use the example of like tearing down something after Easter Bash or setting something up, because I recently got the chance to administer communion for the first time during a service. And it was this really amazing moment, the way we do communion here, of we give the bread and the body. And Pastor Terabeth described it once in this podcast of the person can't take it, right? Like we're extending grace and you are freely receiving it. And that's intentional. It's an intentional theological stance we're taking through that metaphor. But what I remember experiencing from that was, man, that was such a worshipful experience. Being able to look people in the eye and extend that grace to them, embody that grace to them. And I think so often we think, if I don't have the letters after my name, or if I don't have all of the training, it's not going to count. And what I so appreciate is the idea of, sure, those things are helpful, but stacking chairs also really counts. And one of the things that I imagine too, especially for families like you guys, is you have seen folks, like one of my favorite things about Good Shepherd, and we can land here, because one of my favorite things about Good Shepherd is the ways in which our high school ministry is so active in our future ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And they do so not from a place of, earning a merit badge. They do so not in a sort of braggadocious way. It is very in the water. And when you see those folks serving, those teens serving, there's almost this sense of, if you're not doing that, like, you're the odd one out, right? Because it is just so understood. And the teens are bopping around from serving in the nursery to being a buddy to serving in the worship band and everywhere in between. If those folks can do it, if the person who has to have their parent drive them to church in order to be a buddy on a buddy break, you can do it too, dear listener. So I just wanted to say and reiterate again, thank you guys so much for doing this. Thank you for being willing to share your story. Thank you for being vulnerable. What I hope folks take away from something like this is the idea that, one, this sounds like a nice church, if I'm being fully transparent, but also that you guys are a remarkable testimony to people about what it means to continue to show up and continue to experience a place that wants to help you feel, families like yours feel like they belong, and how you have turned that around into helping other people feel like they belong so effortlessly, because that is the core of this place. So thank you guys for being here. And dear listener, we'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to the Encounter Faith podcast. This podcast is a service of G. Shep Productions from Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Naperville, Illinois. All rights reserved. If you're in the area, we'd love to meet you on a Sunday morning at our 9 a.m. or 10:45 services. At Good Shepherd, we are inviting everyone to walk together in the calling of Christ for a life of eternal impact. This podcast is produced and hosted by me, Ross Cochran, and our theme song is Wake the Earth by 1111 Worship. Thank you for listening. We'll talk again soon.